Hey everyone, I wanted to take a few moments to wrap up The Prince by Machiavelli. And hopefully, with this presentation, you can kind of see what the core ideas were in the text. So, to understand Machiavelli is to understand American and in many cases worldwide politics and leadership. As we head into this semester, part of the focus of the course will be the ideas that helped create or continue to create the fabric of the American identity. Hopefully, you looked at or you saw within the Prince ideas that manifest in American politics or American business. And so the Prince was very much an influential text in terms of in terms of politics. American politics affects every one of us, whether or not we consider ourselves political. The decisions that are made by our elected leaders do affect us on a daily basis. So, understanding the Prince sort of helps you get into the mindset of the people who make those decisions. Along with The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which interestingly enough, Machiavelli wrote a commentary for. The Prince is considered by many to be a guidebook for success in politics. I don't know if I would say success in business or really anything else, but certainly politics, maybe, as some students have noted, maybe coaching, but really any leadership position that requires you to keep and maintain power. The Prince should be or sections of the Prince should be a guidebook for. There are some sections that are, dare I say, irrelevant. That saying that will probably make a history professor cringe, but if we're looking at it from the perspective of an AP high school English course, that yeah, there are some things that aren't necessarily relevant. So, big idea number one: the only concern of a leader should be to gain and keep power. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, it's better to be feared than loved. And that's a very basic understanding of the idea. Machiavelli said, be loved and feared. If you can be both, ideally, you want to be both loved and feared. Fear for what will be done if you betray that leader, but you're not going to betray them because you love them. I think the best example of a Machiavellian leader within the last 500 years was Elizabeth I of England. She was feared because the retribution she would enact upon those that would betray her or plot to betray her. She met with that swiftly and fiercely, but the people loved her. They loved her a lot. But if you can't be loved, be feared, because if you're feared, then you still won't be betrayed. You'll still hold on to power if you're feared. Below that, be loved and feared, and then if you can't be loved, be feared, and then if you can't be feared, try to be loved. It's still less ideal than feared, because if you're loved, you'll be betrayed. You just won't be killed. That's why you don't want to be hated. Because if you're feared, you won't be betrayed. If you're loved, you'll be betrayed. If you're hated, you're dead. Taking and maintaining power by force is a recipe for failure. Let me make that clear. Being loved and feared, or being feared, doesn't give you license to be a bully. Bullies, where you take and maintain power by force, by intimidation, that's not. That may give you some short-term gains. You may see power for a little while, but bullying results in hatred. The people will hate you, and whether it's your own inner circle or the people that you rule over, whomever it may be, if they hate you, they will plot to destroy you. So bullying does not accomplish anything for the long term. And keep in mind, a leader, you got to think long term. You have to think long term success. You want to be successful for years and years and years, not just for a short period of time where you take power and do as much as you can and get out. So bullying, not a good idea, especially really in any situation. Again, a bully is all about getting a short-term gain for something they want, and you may get that. You may get a short-term gain by using force, but in the long term, you will alienate people enough against you to where, again, you don't have any allies. People hate you, and then bullies also alienate those that would support them. Deceit deceit is your primary tool, force is secondary. Machiavelli made a comment about be deceitful like the fox, but be forceful like the lion. And I think that's brilliant. You have to be both. Don't pick one or the other. Because a fox can sniff out the trap, but the fox can't fight the wolves. The lion can fight the wolves, but the lion cannot sniff out the trap. So Machiavelli would have said, be both. Be the fox and the lion. Big idea number 2. Don't do anything that compromises your own interests, okay? Make promises. Yeah, you can make all the promises you want, but only keep promises that are beneficial to you. So if you make an agreement with someone and you're not getting something out of that agreement, don't make that agreement. Or make the agreement, just don't fulfill it. As if you are a leader or a ruler, you want to make sure that, if the people love you and respect you and you have the military to back you, if you have an army, no one can really call you on it. And I know that sounds kind of, I don't know what the word would be. That may be annoying, but that's what Machiavelli says. Only make a promise that, you can make any promise you want, but only keep your word if it is beneficial to you. If the circumstances change and you have to break your word, break your word. It is better that you break your word than be pulled into a bad situation. Because remember, you're wanting to keep power. You're wanting to maintain power. So you are doing nothing that compromises your own interest. Now, does that mean... Now, that can be taken to the extreme, to where you don't make alliances and you don't seek help. There's nothing wrong with that. Seek help. Seek help when that help is beneficial to you. But as far... And also, too, keeping promises... If keeping a promise is beneficial for the long term, if you sit and say, okay, if I keep this promise, it will be good for me in the end, then you keep that promise. But if circumstances change and somebody says, you promised, no, circumstances changed. I cannot keep my word anymore. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And then next up, be well esteemed in the eyes of those you rule. Well esteemed doesn't mean liked. It means respected. To have esteem means that they look to you to make good decisions, or at least to be decisive, to have positive traits. You don't have to like someone to still respect them. And that's what a ruler would that's what Machiavelli would say a ruler would want. Okay, big idea number 3, appearance is everything. So this is just like what I said earlier with deceit and thinking of the fox and the lion. And again, it's important that your people or followers hold you in high esteem. You want to maintain appearances that do just that. You don't have to have the morals or the ethics of the people you rule. You just have to appear ethical, okay? Now that can be tricky. Essentially what that means is if you're a ruler, if you're a king, a queen, or any kind of elected leader, kings and queens aren't elected, but in America, we elect our leaders. If you're an elected leader, you don't have to have the ethics of the people that you serve or that you rule over. You just need to appear like you do. They need to think you do. If you are an elected leader for like a county, and most of the people in that county are, we can say Baptist, they need to think you are too. And you tell them you are. Be like, yeah, so am I. They need to think that you have their ethics and you have their morals, but you don't. In fact, Machiavelli would say, you cannot have the morals and the ethics of the average people. Because if you did, you wouldn't be able to make the tough decisions. And you have to be free of those ethical dilemmas that the average person has. Because as a leader or a ruler, you don't answer to them. You do. You don't want to be hated, and they'll overthrow you or vote you out of office. But in Machiavelli's time, the king did not answer to the people. The people answered to him. And so to keep that in mind, you have to, so they don't hate you, they have to think that you have their morals and their ethics. Because if they think that you have their morals and their ethics, then they will assume that every decision you make is within that ethical framework. So I think that's it. I will stop there. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. Be well.